Hey everyone and welcome back. So on my last video, the one about the things I did to get a 99 ATAR, a couple of people asked me in the comments and stuff to sort of go through what my daily study schedule looked like, and then I thought, well, I might as well tell you like weekly as well, and just some general like daily, weekly, like study schedule sort of things, just because a lot of people seem to want to know about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with like my daily study schedule, and then I'm just going to talk about things that I regret or wish I'd done differently, and then things that I thought were really good. So this is sort of like a time management study schedule sort of video. So let's just get straight into what my days used to look like back when I was in year 11 and 12. So I think the comment asking me to do this was specifically looking at year 11, and there was a little bit of a difference for me between year 11 and 12, mainly because year 12 obviously matters and is a lot more important. Not that year 11 doesn't matter, but obviously year 12 goes towards your ATAR. But then also in year 12 I also had UCAT to worry about, so that's why these are going to be a little bit different just depending on year 11 or year 12, but I will specify what I did for each year. So starting off with just my general Monday to Friday. So in the morning, I wouldn't do anything. I am just not a morning person. I have tried before to be one of those people who wake up early and like do their UCAT in the morning or something. I just can't. I am not at my full functioning or capacity until the afternoon. So that was never going to be an option for me. So my mornings were normal, wake up, go to school, and then just go to school, nothing special there. And then I would come home. My school finished, I think it was at 3:15, and I walked home, all of that. So by the time I got home, had something to eat, I'd have a shower after school, have a little bit of a relax. It'd be about 4 o'clock in the afternoon where I would actually sit down and go, oh yes, I'm going to do some study now. Now, from 4 to 5:30, now guys, this is just me doing my best to remember. Exact times, don't take my word for it, but around 4 to 5:30 every day I would sit down, and that would be my time to consolidate what actually happened that day. So that would mean for my science classes, I would be updating the syllabus, being, okay, we learned this today, so I'm going to find the dot point right underneath it, and I'm going to go, okay, do I feel that my notes and what I learned today fully addresses that dot point? If I was asked that dot point in a question, do I think that what I've learned and what I've written down answers everything? If it was a yes, then I move on. If it was a no, then I might do a little bit of Googling or like look at some YouTube videos or something like that. I would also, as I did that, go, do I actually understand this? Like, what is actually going on here? And this goes for maths as well. So I really focus on actually understanding what we did in class that day, taking note on my syllabus of what we did so I wouldn't forget. And then for maths and sometimes science, depending, I think it was only really physics that we did textbook questions, but for maths and sometimes some sciences, I would do any of the textbook questions or chapter questions associated with whatever we learned that day, or if we were given a worksheet or something like that, just to consolidate what we actually did and make sure that I was all on top of everything. So the day that you learn something, it is so incredibly important to actually like understand everything you learn and go, okay, I'm confident with that. Now, after that first like initial study session, if you watched my last video, you would know that I made sure I spent a lot of time hanging out with my family just to make sure I didn't go crazy. So after that, we would watch like an episode or two of something together. So we'd have family time, and then I would eat dinner, blah, 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 blah. So after a little bit of family time there, I would go into my second study session. That would be like the after dinner one. So about 6:30 to 8 o'clock. So again, an hour and a half. That's what I think I work optimally at. I figured out like an hour and a half, and then I got to have some sort of break. So 6:30 to 8 would be either finishing what I didn't get done in the last study session, like finishing, consolidating, or like learning, anything like that. And then if I was finished all of that, I would move into any of my spaced revision, and I'll sort of explain how I did that in a moment. So that 6:30 to 8 would be going over things that I've done before, whether it's like 3 months ago or something like that. So just re-go-overing a couple of things until 8 o'clock. Now, after 8, so 8 to 9, for me, was UCAT time in year 12. In year 11, I just stopped. I'd do something else. I'd go to bed, I don't know. I just didn't do anything. But 8 to 9 in year 12 was UCAT time. And I picked that very specifically because around 8 o'clock, my mum would go into her room, my sister would go into her room, and I would be all peaceful, because I'll talk about it in a moment, but I didn't have a desk in my room or like anywhere to study when I was in high school. I mean, I bought myself a desk like 3 months ago. Best purchase of my life. It has literally changed my life. I don't know why I didn't do this like 5 years earlier. But I had to study in like the common area, so the kitchen, which has like, well, not the kitchen, but like the dining table, and then like the lounge room would be there with like the TV, and then like the kitchen. It was so loud. So 8 to 9 was like my UCAT study time, because other study I can do, like I can do maths while my family's talking to me and talking to each other and stuff. I can't do UCAT while that's happening. So 8 to 9 was my peaceful UCAT time, and then I would go to bed. And I know that I obviously go to bed very early. I don't go to bed that early now. And I remember this was like such a point of contention. Like everyone always made fun of me for this, but I don't know. I just, as I said, like I just get really tired. So I always went to bed at like 9:30. Like I'd talk to my mum for a while and then I'd go to bed. So that was my day. So I'd usually do, just as a summary, like 1.5 hours of like consolidating everything we learned in class, writing any additional notes. So for example, in physics, we annotated PowerPoint slides in class. So if there were anything like particularly important that I felt was like very important, I would write that down in a notes thing just for physics, anything like that. And then the second hour and a half was doing any spaced revision or catching up what I didn't get done before, because obviously some days are going to be busier than others. And then I did an hour of UCAT practice afterwards. Now, it wasn't always an hour of UCAT practice. I sort of started off with like half an hour, then 45 minutes, then an hour, like right up close. But that's just a bit of a general timeline of what my very, very, very typical study schedule looked like, just in a regular day, year 11, year 12. Year 11, I did less. That was more my year 12 study schedule. Year 11, I did a bit less. I didn't have UCAT to worry about. I was not doing UCAT every day back in year 11, so it was definitely a lot less back then. Now, something I did want to touch on is weekends, because I think weekends can be really, really important. So in year 11, I'll start off with year 11, I would do all like my errands with my mum on Saturday mornings. I really like doing that. And then I'd come home and do anything like assignments, or if there was like particular exam study or something like that on Saturday afternoons, but it was definitely a lot more chill. And then Sundays I usually worked. I worked all throughout like year 11 and year 12, and because it was casual, it was always sort of like unreliable, but usually I had at least one shift on either Saturday or Sunday, sometimes both. The lengths would differ every single day, like every week. So like on the weekends, I always tried to work, like I didn't have a particular study schedule because I never knew what my work schedule was going to be until like 2 weeks before. So it was always sort of working around that. But as a rule of thumb, I think a lot of the time I did work Sundays. I got paid more. I didn't have a choice, but I got paid more, and because I was so young, it was like cheaper for them to put me on compared to like an adult. So I usually worked Sundays. And then, yeah, the rest of my Sunday I would have free. So year 11, definitely a lot more chill. I'd usually just spend Saturday afternoon doing any like very chill, like space revision or something. Like I put something on the TV with like my sister and she'd be like, oh yeah, maths, whatever. In year 12 though, I think I stopped running errands with my mum. I still don't do it. I can't do errands anymore. But I would just do a little bit of regular study. Saturdays, again, pretty chill, but usually, I know when I was in year 12, my work shift seemed to pick up a bit compared to when I was in year 11. So I think I was working a bit more on Saturdays then. And then on Sundays was very important, because usually I'd do a shift in the morning. It would be like a 3-hour shift Sunday morning. And I'd come home, have lunch, have a shower and all that. And then I'd do a UCAT mock exam in year 12. So if you guys don't know, what I did was I had no like issue with using up my med entry mocks, like doing one a week, because I knew that I was going to buy like, it's more expensive now, but when I was in year 12, it was like a $50 1-month subscription of Medify, and I bought that the month before the exam, so I'd have an additional 25 mocks. So I was not stressed about using my med entry mocks. I was like, no, I'm going to use them. So I would do a UCAT mock every Sunday afternoon in year 12, and I would do the mock, and then I would just go like flop on my mum's bed, hang out with her for a bit, watch some TV with my family, read a book, whatever. And maybe an hour later, I would come back and I would go through the mock with a fresh mind and go, okay, what was an issue? What was good? What do I need to work on, etc. And then I would use that mock and those results from that mock in my daily practice throughout the next week. So if I don't know, really messed up in decision-making syllogisms, then in my daily practice next week, in that hour before bed every night, during my decision-making time, I would go, okay, I am going to do only syllogisms. Usually I wouldn't try and do that, but if there was like a major issue, I would do that. And yeah, that is literally what my week looked like. Just on the topic of UCAT, 1 hour a day, I would do like a little bit of every subtest. I just felt that was way more beneficial. Consistency is like so much more important in UCAT than most people think. But yes, that is like my weekly study schedule, daily study schedule. And yeah, I am now going to tell you some things firstly about what I actually regret doing during year 11 and year 12, but probably year 12 more specifically, things that I wouldn't do again, I wouldn't recommend. So okay, obviously, okay, so year 12 for me was pretty successful. I mean, I did great in UCAT, pretty well in ATAR. All my medicine interviews, I think, were pretty good. I got into all the unis I wanted to, so year 12 was a very successful year for me. But there is only one thing that I 100% regret and wish I had done differently. Even though I'm not sure how I could have done it differently, I wish I had figured something out. And it was the whole idea of quality over quantity. And I think a lot of it came from like the stress of not getting not getting what I wanted, if you know what I mean. So I don't know why, but I was like really stressed in year 12 about not getting into medicine and like not getting into the course I wanted specifically, because for my family I wouldn't be able to afford to go anywhere outside of Toowoomba. So I was like, no, I need to get in. Like, this is my one chance. I don't know what I'm going to do otherwise. And on top of it, if I didn't want to get into medicine, none of my backups were in Toowoomba. They were all in Brisbane or somewhere else. So I was like, no, this is going to be literally terrible if I don't get in. I need to get in. And I think that panic and that stress really made me do a lot more than I had to do. And I really had a lot more like quantity over quality study. So in year 11, I actually think I did better in year 11. Like, if we're going to look like really specifically at like specific marks for every single subject, I think I did like slightly better in year 11 and year 12. But the amount of work I was putting in year 11 was significantly less than in year 12. And additionally, I'm at uni now, and not to flex or anything, but I do still have a perfect GPA. And the amount of work I do now is literally like 100 times less than the work I was doing in year 12. It's absolutely crazy the amount of time I have now. And I think one of the major things that made my study of low quality was having to study in a common area with a whole bunch of distractions. So now that I'm at uni and I'm at home almost all day, every day, all alone, I have no distractions except myself. I can get so much work done, and I can literally just finish at like 2 o'clock and just go mind my own business, do what I enjoy. By the time my family gets home, I'm not saying, shh, go away, I need to study. Like, I can actually spend heaps of time with them. I'm not annoying anymore like I used to be. So making sure that your study is quality over quantity is so important for burnout, but also to actually like do well. I am much happier now with my academics than I was back in school. So yeah, I really recommend finding some sort of way to get that quality study. So for me, I probably could have, bought my desk like 3 or 4 years earlier than I did, and had a really peaceful study space. I think a lot of it also came from I had to go to school all day, every day, which to me wasn't always the most beneficial, because academically there's a lot of things you do at school which are literally so pointless and a waste of time. However, they also like keep you sane, if you know what I mean. Like, yes, house time is a waste of time, but I enjoyed the people in my house. I had a lot of fun. So now that all of those distractions are gone, I get so much more quality study in. And I know that there are definitely people out there who take like time off in year 12 to study. I don't recommend doing that, but I do recommend finding some way to improve the quality of your study instead of worrying so much about how much you are actually doing. So for you guys, it might be focusing on spaced repetition rather than just blindly doing stuff. It might be finding a more peaceful place in the house to actually do your study. It might be optimizing your study to the time of day. So for example, as I said earlier, I just can't function in the morning. Like, morning study was never going to work for me. So I did everything in the afternoon and in the night where I'm like optimally functioning. For you, it might be opposite. So just have a really good think about how you can optimize your study, like the actual quality of your study and what you're doing, so you don't have to do so much of it. I have really been doing this the past 2 years at uni, and honestly changed my life. I have so much more time for my hobbies now, doing things that I enjoy. My life is changed, and I work so much more now. Like, I changed jobs, thank God, but I work a lot more now, like quite consistently. I've had periods of time where I have been like all day, every day, 4 or 5 days of the week sort of thing, and it is still working out for me perfectly fine. So yeah, I regret doing it more like too much study, if you know what I mean. And based on my results in year 11, and in hindsight, if I had done less study, I would have had the same outcome. I think most people reach a point where it's like there's no more you can do. Like for UCAT, I don't think I could score any higher than I did. Like I'd reached a point, like there was no going any further. For ATAR, with a combination of my subjects and just like my own ability, I don't think I could have gotten any higher. I could have done this much study or this much study and I would have got the same thing. So that's something that you should always keep in mind. So please, I know this was like such a long-winded response and like so confusing, but just please focus on the quality of your study rather than the quantity. And yes, that's the one thing that I really regret, if you can't tell. So now onto the things that I absolutely do not regret. So things that I think were really excellent, things that I think helped me succeed the way I did. First of all, I had a running list of things I had to do. So I did not plan out my study time, if you know what I mean. So obviously I was like, okay, usually like 4 to 5:30 I have one chunk of study, and then like 6:30 to 8 I have another one. That was like planned, but what I actually did in those hours was not planned. So I knew a fair few people at school who were very academic or trying to be very academic, and they'd be like, okay, they would get their whole term out and bring up a whole calendar of the whole term and go, Monday the 7th of June, I will do 1 hour of biology, 1 hour of chemistry, 1 hour of methods. And then on Tuesdays, I will do an hour of physics and an hour of specialist and an hour of literature. Then on Wednesdays, I'll do an hour of biology, an hour of chemistry, an hour of physics. And they would plan like hour blocks of everything they were going to do every single day for the entire term. Obviously, do whatever works for you, but for me, that is... But maybe one of the silliest things you can do, to be honest, because how do you know that on a random Tuesday, 6 weeks from now, you are going to have enough work to do for chemistry that fills up a whole hour? You don't know. And I think restricting yourself to some plan that you have made, yes, it might help keep you accountable, but it's not actually that quality study I was talking about. So I had a running list of things I had to do. And at the very top, in my little like Google Sheets calendar thing that I don't know if I've ever shown before, but it was just my wackadoodle way of planning things out. I would have, like, every subject would have a column, and I would just write everything I had to do. And this would literally be changed and edited and added to and removed from every single day. And the things that I had to get done urgently, I would put in bold. So that might mean the chapter questions from class today, or the chapter questions from class yesterday that I didn't get to do. Those things would be like urgent, got to do them now. They're new content. They're bolded, they're new content. I need to learn it, consolidate it, whatever. And then everything else on the list was like my spaced revision, or like the optional things that I would do. The things that I would eventually get around to, but I wanted to do for that spaced revision. And that would mean when it gets to that more free study time every day, I would get my little planner out and I would physically write down, I'd go, okay, today I want to do this, this, and this. And I would just look at my calendar and go, okay, what am I feeling today? What's the vibe today? What subject do I feel I need to work on the most? Which one am I struggling with the most right now? And then I would pick a couple of things from different subjects, different things, and get those done that day. And that is honestly what I found to be by far the most beneficial thing. Don't restrict yourself to some sort of arbitrary schedule that you have made up in your head and written down and go, yeah, that's going to make me be successful. That's not true. There are always going to be more subjects that need more attention than others, and attention that subjects are going to need are going to constantly fluctuate depending on what the content actually is. Because what if you plan out your whole term and you go, oh wait, biology is actually really easy this term, but for some reason the topics in chemistry I'm really struggling with. And obviously you had not learned those topics yet, so you didn't know that you were going to be finding them more difficult. So you didn't allocate extra time to them. So please don't make a schedule like that. Instead, schedule out time, blocks of study that you want to do, and instead go with that and just do whatever you feel that you need to do within that time. So that is one of the things that I 100% recommend every single time. I think that is one of the main things that made my study of better quality. Even though I still 100% think I was doing too much, I do think that was one of the things that helped me get ahead and, do well. So this one is specific to UCAT, but to be honest, I think a lot of my viewers are doing UCAT. So there are 2 stages of your UCAT preparation. There's stage 1, which is learning everything. Figuring out what is UCAT, what are the subtests, what are the kind of questions, just sort of blindly doing questions and going okay, what is this sort of thing? And then sort of noticing patterns in those questions and figuring out how to do the really general, come up every mock question types. And then stage 2 is where you sort of really start locking in and doing the exam prep side of things, where you've learned everything. Now you're doing practice every day, mocks every week, etc. So I really recommend, and I'm sorry if it's too late for some of you, Actually, UCAT is starting in like a month, so oh my god, UCAT's in like a month, guys. Okay, might be too late if you're in year 12 this year. Might be. But if you're in year 11, what I really recommend, and something that I am so glad I did, and I would do it 100 times over, I got like all of my learning for UCAT out of the way in those summer holidays between year 11 and year 12. I don't know about you guys, but I'm never really doing anything particular in the holidays. I'm literally just hanging out, like that sort of thing. Like I don't have anything planned. I don't go on family holidays. Like I just sit around doing whatever I want. So I found just 1 hour a day in like a 10, 12-hour day is nothing of UCAT. And that was me figuring things out. That was me going through each subtest going, okay, let's do some questions today. Let's see what are the common kinds of questions. How do I do this, etc. And by the end of those summer holidays, I had learned everything in UCAT like pretty well. Like I was accurate. I was like, yes, I am feeling confident. I'm going to start moving into like taking it, not like taking it seriously, but like locking in for like that exam prep side of things. So doing UCAT like every day in year 12, etc. It also really helps you get into the habit of actually doing UCAT every day when there is no stress before the stress of year 12 comes. So I do think it is easier to pick up that habit of doing UCAT every day when you've got literally nothing else on, so it can continue on into year 12. Because if you try and pick up that habit in year 12, you are going to find it very difficult. So getting your UCAT learning out of the way in that year 11, year 12 summer holidays is honestly one of the best things I did, and I really, really recommend it if you guys are doing UCAT. 100% recommend. Year 12, see, I don't think the content in year 12 is more difficult than year 11, but I think the stress of wanting to get into medicine, wanting to do well, makes year 12 so much harder. I think for some of my classes, the content in year 12 is actually easier, to be honest. So please get that UCAT stuff done and out of the way before year 12 actually starts. Another thing that you can do in those year 11, year 12 holidays, and I didn't do it for every subject, but I did do it for specialist, I think. If you start year 12 in term 4, which I know a lot of schools did, and I did, like term 4 of year 11, that means you obviously learn a whole term of content, and then you have a big summer holidays, and then you go back to school. It is definitely worth doing a bit of spaced repetition in that summer holidays, just to make sure that you don't forget everything and anything, and it just gives you an opportunity to get ahead, consolidate that stuff really well, and you don't have to worry about it for quite a bit of time afterwards. For me, I think I might have done like occasionally a little bit of content from other classes, but I think, if I remember correctly, I think I was mainly just figuring out how to do vector proofs. Just every now and then I'd sit down and go, okay, let me just do like one, because I hated vector proofs so much. And yeah, so I think I just spent like a little time on that in those holidays there. Something I don't recommend though, that again, I knew a couple of girls at school tried doing this, and I mean, I would never say anything to them, but I would just be like, I wouldn't have done that. But a lot of these girls would try and teach themselves content ahead of time. I don't recommend that. In like the experience of some people that I know, they never did it right. Like they would think that they were teaching themselves right, but they weren't, and they would end up so confused. And then when we actually learned that in class, they had already like learnt in their head the wrong way. So when they were like being taught the right way, they just couldn't get it to stick. They couldn't understand. It was just a disaster. So I really don't recommend trying to get ahead in like topics and subjects if you are not confident with it. Like you have to be super confident to try and do that. And on top of that, most schools don't provide their like notes or anything like that ahead of time. So you would have to rely on random YouTube videos and websites and all that, which you never know like if they're going to be 100% accurate to what you actually do in like your syllabus of your state or whatever. So I don't really recommend trying to learn ahead of time in those holidays. It's not going to be good. You will confuse yourself. You'll teach yourself the wrong thing, and then it'll get stuck in your head and you won't be able to teach yourself the right thing. The last thing I just want to say in this video, and I've already touched on it in my like daily schedule, just make sure that you understand what you're doing as you learn it. Please don't not understand something and go, oh, I'll sort that out next week, because you will not. Oh, I'll sort that out closer to the exam. You will not. Learn it the day that you have been taught it. Once you've been taught it, if you don't understand it, you go home and you're trying to consolidate it and you don't understand it, go online, learn it, watch some YouTube videos, re-look at the notes from class, email your teacher saying, hey, well, go to Learning Hub the next day, whatever. Just make sure you only leave it like a couple of days max before you have learned it fully and understood it. Understanding things is the most important thing that you can do at school. If you don't understand, you're not going to remember, you're not going to be able to answer questions, and you are not going to be able to succeed. So please, on the day that you learn it, make sure that you understand it that day, because you will not revisit it. You'll promise yourself you'll come back to it, but you won't. So please, please, please just make sure that you are learning and understanding on the day. Now, that is all for this video. I think it was like a little bit of a mess because I kept just like thinking of random things that I wanted to tell you guys. But overall, for me, I do about 3 hours of study each day on a weekday. I don't think I was doing high quality study. I think I was focusing more on quantity over quality because I like panicked myself so much. I really think once you've figured out how you study and what works for you, like you need the quantity in the beginning as you're testing out all of these different things. But once you really get down to like lock in and like that time of year, exam time of year and all that, you really need to have a solid quality over quantity so you don't burn out. So please figure out what makes study quality for you and go with that. Also, make sure that you are using your weekends very wisely and make sure that you have a balance, especially on the weekends, between relaxing, doing things that you enjoy, but also using that time to your advantage and doing any studying, specifically UCAT on the weekends was something that I really like to do. I hope you enjoyed this video, and of course, if you ever like have a specific thing or video that you want to hear from me, please just ask me in the comments. But yeah, if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.